Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first week of February, which is the Bordeaux box. I am joining you from Puerto Rico in case you're just jumping in now. I'm in this island called Vieques, which is off of Puerto Rico, island of Puerto Rico, so island off the island. The internet here is a little spotty, especially with the storm coming in. It's been going in and out all day. So I'm hoping that it's gonna hold, but in case we do have technical difficulties, then I will finish this recording and then I'll post it to you all so you guys can watch it later. But I just, fingers crossed that we can get it through today, but there's a chance that we may have some issues. So we'll worry about that when we cross that bridge. But otherwise, welcome. This is the first week of February for those of you who are joining us for the first time. My name is Chang. That's spelled, I know, W-O-O-N-G as you see on the screen, but it's pronounced like moon without the M or spoon without the SP. That W is silent. It throws everybody off, so don't feel bad about it. So, but Woong with a G at the end is authentic way of saying it in Korean. But over the years of people butchering my name, that G has also progressively become silent. So Un or whatever is easier for you, I respond to both. And that's how my name is pronounced. Just a couple ground rules here. One is, so from 8:30 to 9:30 is kind of our regular programming, quote unquote. This is where we kind of break down the producer, the region, we kind of get geeky about the wine. And then after 9:30, it kind of turns into what we call after hours, or where we just kind of drink wine and hang out. It kind of turns into just kind of virtual wine bar kind of a thing. But in order to make sure that we kind of get all the material through within that first hour, if you have any questions, I ask that you put that in the chat box or wait until you are prompted for a question, just so that we can keep things going. We don't want to be here all day, all night. But also the first week of the month, it tends to be, so today it tends to be a little bit longer than the rest, just because, we have to, just like what I'm doing right now, we have to kind of explain how the club is structured and how the tasting runs and all of that. Later we're going to taste the wine through the grid and I have to explain kind of what the grid is. So it takes a little bit longer today, but in general, that first hour is kind of the learning hour. And then after that, you get to hang out as long as you want or as short as you want. And then second ground rule is at any point, we're all adults here consuming alcoholic beverage and we all have different backgrounds and different sets of beliefs and philosophies that we believe in. Different opinions and comes from different perspectives. And, with alcohol being consumed, sometimes there may be some things that are said, or you may say something, they may offend somebody or they may offend you. And when those things are, and that's totally fine, that's just human nature. And I welcome it. But when those things do happen, we're going to address it as a group. It's all coming from the place of love and respect. But, in the interest of keeping the space feeling safe and fun for everyone, when those things are brought to my attention, we're going to address it as a group. But, that's about it. Besides those two rules, there are no other rules. Just hang out, pour yourself a fat-ass glass of wine. It's Wednesday, get a little hopped up, make some bad decisions. Life is more fun that way. Your week is probably go faster if you do so. Couple more logistics. Case Club will go live tomorrow with all the Austrian wines we tasted last month, as well as some other Austrian wines that did not join us in the past, who are joining us for bonus perk program, where you get to purchase all the wines that we've tasted from the previous month at or near wholesale price. The more you buy, cheaper it becomes per bottle. It's the whole idea. I know you haven't tasted any of these Austrian wines from last month, but you are more than welcome to participate in Case Club if you like. But that email about what's being featured and how logistically how it works, it will all go out tomorrow. So keep your eye out for it if you want to participate. And if you don't, that's fine too. Last but not least, 6 Foot Wine Club is committed to donating 1% of its gross revenue to an organization whose mission statement aligns with its values. This month, I have chosen the Hunger Project. And if you would like to learn more about what they do, or if you'd like to donate alongside 6 Foot Wine Club, the donation link is right there in the chat box as well. So go check it out. And if you don't want to donate or you can't donate, that's totally fine too. But just want to put it out there. And that is the organization that's being featured this month. Any questions about any of the logistics and all of that? One more thing for those of you who signed up for Box, you should gotten your Box by now. You should either picked it up from your wine captain or they should all been delivered by today. If you don't have it, if you ordered or signed up for Box and you don't have it, then please let me know ASAP so we can fix that problem. But you should all have it by now. The first video of Box is going to go out this Friday. So for those of you who signed up, expect that email with the video link, recording link, and all of that going out this Friday. And then for next 12 weeks, we're going to taste one bottle of Beaujolais every Friday, with every fourth one being a live one. So we're going to have on those fourth weeks, especially if you join the monthly box, you're going to have 2 live tastings. So one on Wednesday for the monthly box, one on Friday for the box. So that's how it's going to go for next 12 weeks. Okay. Any questions about any of that logistics or what I just want? Rules? Cool. Cool. Hearing none, let's get into the wine. We're tasting this guy. We're starting it off with the white wine today. 2019 Domaine Clotte-Cazalis Sec Bordeaux Blanc is what we're tasting today. I know there's a mouthful of a lot of French words there. Or Sec de la Clotte-Cazalis is what we're tasting today. Just as a preface for all of it, just to kind of get you guys ready for this month. In general, I believe that wine should not be consumed in vacuum. I think wine should be consumed with food. Wine makes so much more sense with the food, and the food makes so much more sense with wine. Having said that, more so than any other months, this month, Bordeaux month, the wine particularly makes so much more sense with food. This particular wine, as well as all 4 wines this month, are not meant to be drunk up. Bordeaux is not something that you sit on the porch and pound. It's just not something they do. It just doesn't make so much sense. It just makes a lot more sense to sit around with a plate of food, different kinds of food, and just kind of, you know, it will make a lot more sense. It'll come alive. Oh, having said that, I know this email has gone out. Some of you did not get the 4th bottle, the 4th wine. There was a supply chain issue. The French container that was supposed to land did not land in time. It's coming. Now it's expected in a week on the 15th. So I'm asking you, I'll distribute that out to the wine captains. There are 3 of you on the delivery route who did not get those wines. So 3 of you on the delivery route will get those delivered. Everybody else, I will distribute those out to the wine captains. And I'm asking you to come pick up your 4th wine from your wine captain. So you're essentially going to your wine captains twice this month. So I apologize about any inconvenience that may cause, but you know, it's just what happens with wine. You know, sometimes some supply chain issues, and you know, it just happened that way. All right, so let's start with a map because that's always how we start. All right. Here we go. France, this country, in 4 years, in 2 months since the beginning. This is 4 years that you and I have been drinking bottle a week, which is pretty incredible to think about. But anyways, in those 4 years, I have never put together a box around Bordeaux, and finally it's happening. So here we are. So this is where we are. It's kind of a southwest. I mean, this region is called Southwest, but it's kind of right in there. Initially, this whole region is kind of one wine region, but over time, Bordeaux, which is named after the major city, the namesake city, Bordeaux, is what this region got its name from. And as you can see, there's a lot of estuaries and river systems that run through here. It's really defined by these 2 rivers that flow into it. So Dordogne and Garonne, these 2 rivers kind of merge in Bordeaux and they flow out into the Atlantic Ocean. And this maritime influence from this water is what makes wine here possible. So what's this? And then let me show you Where is it? There you go. So if you look at further, this is kind of how it gets broken down into. With the Bordeaux, there's a lot of things we can talk about, a lot of different angles we can break this down into. We're going to talk about history. We're going to talk about winemaking. We're going to talk about a lot of different things. But for today, this week, I'm gonna just a brief history at the beginning, but the actual classification system, for those of you who are familiar with the Bordeaux, you know that there are like 5 different growth, first growth, second growth, different chateaus that are basically ranked by its quality level and how that runs the trade structure here. We're gonna cover more of that in depth next week, but know that this is kind of the region that we're talking about. And historically, we're talking about an area that's very important in terms of not only the prestige. It was, I mean, if you're a wine collector anywhere in the world, but particularly here in the States, you are probably going to have some level of Bordeaux in your collection. It has always been highly sought after. Some of the most expensive wines that are traded and auctioned off in the world come from this region. And it's a very significant region. It's also in terms of quantity. It produces large amount of wine. I believe it is a third most produced after Languedoc, Loire, and then the third is here in Bordeaux. Even though the Loire and the Bordeaux tend to switch places time to time. But so it's a very significant in terms of amount of wine that's also being produced here. But also the large amount of premium wines are produced here. So again, some of the most expensive wines in the world, arguably some of the most age-worthy red wines in the world are produced right here in Bordeaux. It is also the kind of a birthplace or I should say the French appellation system has really taken a huge foothold here. This region has the most number of appellations within one region than any other French regions. There are currently about more than 50 appellations within it. So as you can see, all these little names on this map is an AOC appellation of its own. So again, very historically, as well as even currently now, very significant area. But to kind of look at it, how it all started is it started from here, this part, Medoc. So this is where the most expensive, the highest rated chateaus are located in Medoc. Back in early 17th centuries, so early 1600s, this just happened to be salt marsh and just forest. There was nothing here. It was just a barren land. But the Dutch engineers and tradesmen started coming here, and then they started emptying out the water, and they discovered this great beds of gravel that ran all the way through Medoc. And then you see this region called Grave. This was the orange region. I mean, that literally translates to gravel. This bed of gravel basically became home for the greatest Cabernet Sauvignon produced in the world. So when you look at this kind of map, you can kind of divide into three different places. So there's a left bank. So this is the Garonne River on the south. Left of that is the left bank. And if you've heard of Bordeaux, if you hung around old school wine guys, you've heard this probably many times, left bank Bordeaux, right bank Bordeaux, but this is what they mean. So left bank is the left of Garonne, right bank is the right of the Dordogne. In between these two regions, in the middle here, it's called Entre-deux-Mers. You can kind of see it here. Between the two seas is literally what this translates to. So this is a region in the middle, but left bank, right bank, Entre-deux-Mers is kind of essentially loosely how Bordeaux is divided. But even within that, there's a huge subdivision of each appellations within it. And this cracking this kind of an appellation code essentially is a way to succeed in Bordeaux. And in a way, it's kind of fun to taste through all these different places. How is it different? How is Grave wine different from, let's say, Saint Estèphe, or Pauillac, or Pomerol on the right? That's kind of it's a fun game to play. But again, some of these wines, especially coming from this area, Medoc, left, can get very expensive. But also, you can find really cheap, affordable wines in Bordeaux here as well. So when we're talking about left and right, let me talk about the varieties, for example. You're going to hear Bordeaux varieties quite a bit. You may even say it on this map, or maybe it says it on the other map. Yeah, here. It says Bordeaux blend, Semillon, Sauvignon Blanc, Sauternes. So what does that exactly mean? So when we're talking about Bordeaux, we're talking about blends. Essentially both red, white, every style of wine is produced here: sparkling, still, dry, sweet, red, white, rosé. I mean, every style that you can think of is produced here. But every wine is pretty much blended here. Though when we're talking about red, when we're talking about these grapes right there: Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Cabernet Franc, Petit Verdot, Carmenère, and Malbec. These 6 varieties make up essentially the red varieties of Bordeaux. Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot being the most important and significant ones. So whenever you talk about left bank, left of the Garonne, we're talking about Cabernet Sauvignon dominant red blend. So it's mostly Cabernet with some Merlot follow, with a little bit of Cabernet Franc, Petit Verdot. And then more and more as time goes, Carmenère and Malbec are really becoming unfashionable. A lot of modern producers do not add Carmenère and Malbec anymore. But historically speaking, traditionally speaking, all these 6 varieties were used to make a blend, the left bank being mostly Cabernet dominant. Right bank is mostly Merlot dominant. So when we are talking about Bordeaux reds, we're talking about essentially Cabernet Sauvignon or Merlot. And then the funny thing about all this is that these are kind of incestuous too. So for example, Cabernet Sauvignon is a child of Cabernet Franc and Sauvignon Blanc. Sauvignon Blanc being another blend or the grape variety of Bordeaux. For white varieties, we're talking about Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon. Here in Entre-deux-Mers, this is the white territory of Bordeaux. So a lot of white wines of Bordeaux are made here in the middle. But and then we're talking about Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon. For the red, we're talking about these varieties: Cabernet Sauvignon, child of Sauvignon Blanc and Cabernet Franc. Merlot and is a half genetic, half sibling of a Cabernet Franc as well. Carmenère and Malbec are the only ones who are not genetically modified or related to others. And traditionally, they all have, because of the Cabernet Franc influence, they all have these kind of a green, vegetal, kind of a freshly cut grass, green bell pepper kind of a thing running through. And it's a common thing that runs through all of the red variety, whether it's Merlot or Cabernet, because of the Cabernet Franc influence. So whenever you pick up a bottle of Bordeaux, expect that you're going to get some sort of a grassy, green kind of a note to it. So again, left Cabernet dominant red blend, right bank, Merlot dominant red blend. In the middle here, Entre-deux-Mers being the white wine territory with the Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon, mostly Sauvignon Blanc. So for those of you who enjoy New Zealand Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc, for example, a lot of people don't know much about Bordeaux Sauvignon Blanc, but Bordeaux blend may be something they may want to try. It's a little different. Sometimes producers throw a muscadel into white blend as well, just for a little lift. But we're talking about very innocuous, kind of a high acid, just easy to drink kind of white wine that comes from in the middle. Now, this yellow region, and this is where we are this week. We're in Barsac. This producer is in Barsac, which is this little sliver right here on the left side of Garonne River. This whole yellow region is arguably produces the world's most sought after sweet dessert wine called Sauternes. Hence the name Sauternes, as you see right here. The producer that we're featuring today and next week are exact same producer. They're actually known for their Sauternes, award-winning, top-of-the-class, world-class Sauternes. But we're starting off with their dry still wine today. But next week, we're actually going to taste their Sauternes. That half bottle that you guys receive is a sweet dessert wine. Yes, we have a sweet dessert wine this month. again, one of those things that makes sense with a lot of food. Maybe you like it. I know it's unfashionable in America, the sweet wines are, but you know, we should not be afraid of a little residual sugar or a lot of residual sugar. But today we're gonna taste their dry white wine first. Again, so this is mostly Sauvignon Blanc with a little bit of Semillon thrown in there. But this region is where the greatest sweet wine, these are wines in the world come from. We're going to talk more about that next week, including what botrytis is, which is a type of rot. And rot sounds terrible. Why would you want rot? But it's actually something that is very beneficial, both in terms of flavor, as well as a concentration and complexity. And we'll talk about that next week. Just know that we're in Barsac, which is right here, and which is within the Sauternes. And we're tasting their dried, still white wine today. Climate here is, again, these two rivers is what, and also proximity to the coast, creates a lot of the kind of continental influence that you will see in Southwest France. If you ever go to Southwest France, it's a very kind of hot, dry place here. But this influence from these rivers and maritime influence make this place quite mild, but also it gets quite humid. It's part of the reason also organic farming, that kind of natural winemaking, all of that has been really proven difficult here, just because it's hard to farm organically because of the humidity. That's not to say it doesn't exist, but it's just not a very commonplace thing. The winter also is the winter bite is blended by this maritime influence of the coast and this river that runs in. But the heavy rain comes in. There's oftentimes a threat of heavy rain during June, which is when the grapevines flower, and that's just harvest season, which is September, October. There is a constant threat here. It does quite rain. It can rain quite a bit here, and you never want rain right before harvest because it clumps up the berries and dilutes the wine. So you don't want that, or especially during flowering, because it can also prohibit from forming fruit or fruiting. But it's constant threat here. Let's see. Wine style wise, we're talking about, this is where we're going to see, and even today when we get to tasting this wine, we're going to talk about it, but you're going to start seeing a lot of oak influence. And this is part of the reason why I have been afraid of go to Bordeaux, and I've never really wanted to put a box around Bordeaux. As most of you guys know, I am pretty much allergic to new oak. I just do not like it at all. You see a lot of use of it. This thing called barrique, which is a small French barrels of is often used not only for fermentation but also aging the wines in there. Especially as you get up into the premium wines, the prestigious wines, the usage of it goes up quite a bit. So here in Medoc and Grave, even Sauternes in the white wine too, and the white wines of Grave as well. There's quite a bit of new oak that gets used, which is it's a lot. It can be a lot, but it's very different. It's not as overt as some other can see, but the use of it gets bigger and bigger, and you see its influence. And we're going to talk about that this month. Let's talk about who makes this wine real quick. So Domaine Clotte-Cazalis belongs to Lacoste family. Lacoste family is a very, very reputable family land and farming. But this particular property, the Clotte-Cazalis, they've owned this property since 1779. So since the 1700s for a very long time. But 40 years before 2001, so since 1960s, they leased this farm out to another family, and for them to farm and then use the harvest from that to make the wine. But in 2001, this mother and daughter combo here, Marie Pierre, which is the daughter on the left, Bernadette on the right, they decided to take over the farming and decide to make wines themselves. And it's a small property. There's only 5 hectares. So we're talking about very, very tiny little property here. And then they took it over and decided to farm it themselves. They planted the 5 hectare vineyards planted 95% Semillon and 5% Sauvignon Blanc. Semillon being the noble variety used for Sauterne, and then that's what they're really known for, the sweet dessert wine, a really age-worthy sweet dessert wine. Some of the most expensive white wines ever produced is also Sauterne. But Marie Pierre, being the young generation of Bordeaux producer she is, and this is kind of why I wanted to feature this, and that's what I was trying to do this month, which is kind of show some of these new old school producers who've been doing it the right way from the beginning, or these kind of young generation or new generation of Bordeaux producers who are coming in and trying to kind of shake things up, do things a little bit differently. So she came in, she's a 13th generation winemaker within the family. And in 2015, she took over the property estate from her mother, Bernadette, and decided that she's going to dedicate 1 hectare of the 5-hectare family plot. So we're talking about 20% of the family estate to producing Bordeaux Sec Blanc. So instead of making the things that can, get you more money, because Sauterne is quite expensive, instead of that, she said, Mom, I'm going to take 20% of our land, I'm going to dedicate it to making dry still wine. And because that area, that whole Barsac and Sauterne area is appellation law-wise, you can only make sweet wine here. You cannot make dry still wine. If you make dry still wine, even though all the fruit comes from Barsac, you cannot call it Barsac or Sauterne. So that's why this appellation on this bottle, as you says on the front, is just Bordeaux. It's basic level Bordeaux Blanc is what this bottle is, even though 100% of the fruit comes from where the Sauterne comes from. And she decided to dedicate 1 hectare of that land to making dry still wines, also farming it according to agroforestry. And if you don't know, if you're not familiar with that term, the whole idea is this kind of a farming in a more of a holistic setting, as if it was done inside of like a forest. So what does that mean? It's farming by animal traction. So they have this horse that they use. It's like a Belgian horse, beautiful horse. Here's a Marie Pierre farming the land with his horse. Also increasing biodiversity. So she's building birdhouses, beehives all over the vineyard, as well as right now they're in a process of planting, introducing fruit trees and the regular trees as well. So they're planting 2 rows of vines, 2 rows of fruit trees, 2 rows of vines, 2 rows of fruit trees. So the whole idea is that over time in the future, these vineyards will look like it's in the middle of kind of a forest rather than just a one monocropping farming. And this idea of agroforestry or doing it this way is a completely foreign thing here in Bordeaux. One of the most historical part of all of Bordeaux is one of the most gaudy, kind of rigid, kind of a place. Tradition kind of rings superior to anything else. And in the middle of that, there's this young 13th generation young woman who's coming in here and doing things a little differently from the rest. It's a pretty ballsy, courageous thing to do here in Bordeaux. So wanted to feature her. Not to mention their wines are incredible. Their Sauterne is next week. Their Sauterne is mind-blowing. But also this is a cool thing, so I want to get that. But so far she's had a great success. Again, this is only started in 2017. So we're talking about only 7 years ago. So 2019, this vintage 2019. So this was her 3rd vintage, it would have been, or maybe 2nd or 3rd vintage that she would have made from this plot. So this wine, we'll see how this develops as time goes. But so far, I was pretty impressed with what she was making here. But yeah, that's what that is. So what is this wine? This is, as you can see, these are pretty old vines, 50-plus-year vines. This is 70% Sauvignon Blanc and 30% Semillon. In case you're not familiar with a Semillon, it's a thin-skinned white grape variety. It's pretty innocuous. One thing that has challenged with the Semillon is that it kind of gets this oxidative edge. It oxidizes quite quickly and easily, so you can get this kind of a nutty thing. The wine can turn brown or amber pretty quickly. But it does have a really rigid acid structure. So you can make some really age-worthy ones with Semillon. It also has a very naturally high sugar level, It's part of the reason why Semillon is used for production of Sauterne. That combination of a high acid and a naturally high sugar content makes for a great candidate for making a dessert wine. But this is 70% Sauvignon Blanc, 30% Semillon, all organically farmed, hand harvested, indigenous yeast. Unfortunately, there's no real tech sheet that's available here. I had to verify all this tech information with the importer. But this is a 50% barrel and stainless steel fermented. Full malolactic fermentation. She doesn't stop the mallow at all. 6 months of aging in used barrels, and those barrels are all minimum 2 years old. I for sure thought there was some new oak on this thing, but just that some of those barrels just maybe a little young. I mean, 2 years is old is still pretty young. I definitely see some influence of oak here, and then we'll talk about them when we get there. But at least according to them, there's no brand new oak barrels that are used here. No filtering, no fining, just a touch of sulfur. And this young woman doing all of that here in the middle of Bordeaux. That's what this wine is. I know I try to cover that as quickly as I possibly could because there's a lot that I just talked about. And again, I try to put this into Bordeaux is a big thing. Like even when you're studying Bordeaux as if you're going to wine course, Bordeaux you spend a lot of time studying out Bordeaux just because it's historical and there's so many different ways to dissect it, talking about appellation and different things. So I'll try to give you kind of bite-sized chunk each week. But I just wanted to give you for this week, if you don't remember anything else, just remember there are kind of 3 loose regions: left bank, right bank, Entre-deux-Mers in the middle. Entre-deux-Mers being the white territory, left and right being red territory. Left bank is Cabernet Sauvignon dominant red. Right bank is Merlot dominant red. And then Sauterne, that right along the Garonne River, is where the sweetest white wines, dessert wines come from. So take that away. That's your takeaway for this week. And then we'll go into it more and more next week. But just know that. And then Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Petit Verdot, Cabernet Franc, Malbec, Carmenere are the red varieties of Bordeaux. Sauvignon Blanc, Semillon, and touch of Muscadel are also the white varieties of Bordeaux. And then every style of wine is made here: red, white, rosé, still, dry, still sparkling. So those are your takeaways this week. Just remember that, and then we'll get into some more stuff next week. We're going to get into more of a chateau system, classification system, and all of that, the growth system, and all of that. Any questions about anything I just went over before we get into the wine or tasting it?
Woong, I know you've avoided doing a Bordeaux box.
Cool.
I don't remember us ever even doing a Bordeaux wine before. Is this the first wine we've done from Bordeaux?
Yep. 100%.
That's kind of wild.
4 years. Let me tell you, I don't remember the last time. I think it's probably been, I'm not joking, I think it's probably been 10 years since I've done any kind of systematic tasting of Bordeaux. And I remember, I mean, it was just like 10 and they would rip my gum out. Like every tasting, I had to go and brush my teeth because my teeth would be completely stained. Just so much extraction, tannin, and all of it. It's, I mean, we're in a big red territory. So, but yeah, I have never done Bordeaux. I've always found it quite boring, to tell you the truth. And being allergic to new oak and not liking new oak at all has always been a place that I've been kind of afraid of. But it was hard to find the right wines. But with what we got, I'm actually pretty excited about things that we can get into because we got this week and next week we have the same producer. One is a sweet wine, but botrytis affected sweet wine, and then this is a dry wine. Similar varietal makeup, so we can talk about sugar level and what that means. And then the third and fourth week, we have Saint-Emilion, young Saint-Emilion, made by one of the second growth producers. So what it's like to have a young, kind of a bright Bordeaux, classic producer. And then the second one is Semillon Grand Cru, not Semillon, Saint-Emilion Grand Cru producer, but it's 2010. So we're talking about 2-year-old wine versus a 14-year-old wine, and see what aging does to that exact same wine makeup. So we can talk about that as well. We've always talked about, this kind of guessing game of would you lay this wine down for how long, right? But now we have a chance to actually taste it all as a group together and say, this is what 14-year-old age to a wine would do to a wine. So it's pretty cool that we're able to do that. So yeah, it all kind of worked out, but let's just say it was a hard month to put a box. It was rough. It was rough. Kind of things I tasted was rough. It was just so young, so tannic, so much new oak. It was wild. All right, let's taste some wine. All right. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, this is called the grid. It's a systematic way of tasting wine. It's just a way the wine professionals are taught how to taste wine. Just remember, this is really for the purpose of blind tasting. So every exam that we take, there's a blind tasting portion. This is supposed to help you go through and figure out what's in your glass. The WSET stands for Wine Spirit Education Trust. It's a British wine certification body that certifies a Master of Wine, or it's a precursor to getting a Master of Wine certification. And then there's another one, is Court of Master Sommeliers, which are you might have heard Master Sommelier, you might have seen the movie Song. They have their own grid as well, very similar, just a little different vocabularies here and there, but very similar kind of a way of thinking about it, same philosophy behind it. But the idea is to it's a deductive tasting. It's broken down into 4 different parts. First is appearance. What does that wine look like? Second is a nose. What does it smell like? Palate. What does that taste like? We taste for structure. So these are not flavors, but like acidity, tannin, and alcohol. We taste for flavors as well. So we'll talk about what kind of fruit, what kind of different non-fruit, different flavors that come out. And then finally, conclusion is where you take all this information you gather from appearance, nose, and palate, put it all together, and figure out in blind tasting cases, you will figure out what vintage, what wine, what variety, where it comes from. But in our cases, this is really for us to detect the quality level of the wine, and then whether we should age the wine. You can download this for free on the internet. Just type, Google WCT level 3, level 2, level 4. We use level 3, but grid, and then it will pop up, or Quartermaster Sommeliers, grid, it will pop up. You can download it for free. You can carry it with you if you like. The one thing I will say is that I have love and hate relationship with the grid. I do think it is a very clever way to uniformize a very subjective experience, which is wine tasting. It helps us kind of use the same language, and that's the whole kind of point of it. But at the same time, it is very limiting. In one way, WCT being a British body, as well as a Court of Master Sommelier, is also a British certifying body. So when we get to the second page, when you look at all these fruit characters, these are very kind of Anglo-Western European fruits. And for those of you who grew up in different countries, different continents, different climates, one, you may not be familiar with some of these things, like gooseberry. You may not know what gooseberry is. Don't feel bad. That's okay. Also, like right now, I'm in Puerto Rico. There's a fruit called breadfruit here, which you don't see in the mainland. But if you grew up in Puerto Rico and you got into wine and then you smell some wine, it reminds you of breadfruit, but you don't see breadfruit over here. So if you have to write breadfruit on an exam, you will not get a point, but that does not mean you are wrong. It just means, this is right, but for whom, right? It's right for the people who grew up in Western Europe, but not for the people who grew up in Amazon, Puerto Rico, Korea, or different places. So don't feel bad about it. If you detect something, for you it reminds you of something that you grew up in your childhood, or something you ate, then call it out. You're not wrong. So don't be afraid to call out something that's not on this list. But yeah, it can be very limited. That's what I'm saying, especially with the natural wine, so we taste here. This grade is really used for tasting conventional kind of wines, very clean, conventional wines. So that can also be very limiting, but we'll talk about that as we taste through. All right, but let's start from the top. Appearance. So pour yourself like a half glass of wine. We're talking about 2 to 3 ounces of wine. My lighting here is fucking horrendous, so this may suck, but we'll try it. So appearance. First, clarity. So you tip your glass about 45-degree angle. You look through the deepest pour from the top to bottom, and first you see if the wine is clear or hazy. I say this wine is clear. There's nothing hazy, opaque about it. It's very clear. Intensity. Red wine is a little bit different. You just how much color is there? I'm gonna call this, I don't know, maybe medium. Yeah, maybe pale. I don't know. Again, my lighting is terrible, but I'm gonna call this about medium. And I do see a little bit of gold fleck in my color, and also every light bulb, every lighting in this place is the incandescent yellow light. So it may be maybe stronger than what I think it is, but I'm gonna call this medium gold. No other observation, no sediments, no pétillance, no bubbles. Legs or tears. This is something that I hate talking about, or I think it's stupid that we have to talk about it. But if you swirl the glass, and then if you wait, you see these lines that are coming down, streams on the left and right, those are called legs or tears. It's a function of 2 things, which is the sugar and alcohol. But later, when we get to palate, we actually verify the alcohol and then we verify the sugar on the wine. So why we have to even talk about it, the appearance of something we kind of play a guess game on the eye, it just makes no sense to me. But also, there are a lot of people who think legs or tears tells you some sort of level of quality of the wine. It does not. It has nothing to do with the quality. It has everything to do with the viscosity of the wine. So don't be that person who goes to a restaurant and say, look at this beautiful leg. This must be great wine, or this must be old wine. It has nothing to do with that. Okay. All right. So nose. If you guys hear some noise, my companions are coming back from their dinner right, so don't mind that. Here's the nose. So give it a little swirl first. Put your nose in it. Take a deep you can do a slow, deep inhalation, or you can do a couple like a quick ones. So I happen to be like a slow, long one. So one, this wine is clean. This one is sound, meaning there's no fault on this one. Everything smells exactly like wine is supposed to smell like. The most common fault is being corked, where the cork itself is not super sterile. The wine will smell like wet cardboard, damp basement floor. All the notes will be very muted, like it's hard for you to smell anything else. But right now, this wine smells clean. This wine smells sound. Intensity. Give it a swirl. Start moving your nose towards the glass. As soon as your nose touches the rim, notice when you start smelling the wine. Like for me, this wine is like about here, just off the glass. So I'm going to call this medium. So if you start smelling the wine when nose touches the rim or just about to touch the rim, that's medium. If it's a few inches off the glass, it's medium plus. If it's even further than that, that's pronounced. If your nose is in the glass and you still kind of struggle to smell, that's medium minus. Light is really, you're in there like smelling it and you can't really get anything. Development is youthful, developing, full developed. We don't really use all that much, but I'll tell you in a second. But once you note the intensity, so I call this medium intense aromas. What do we get? So what do you get to the second page? And then you just basically go down the line. Don't overthink this. If you smell it, call it out. If you don't smell it, you don't smell it. So first, let's start with the floral. Do you smell any flowers? I don't. I don't really smell much flowers here. Maybe it can miss me a little bit of like jasmine and stuff, but like really, it's not a floral wine. All right, let's go to green fruit. Do you smell any green fruit? I do. There's some tree fruit here. There's some like a yellow apple. There's definitely some like that kind of appley, peary, yellow apple kind of a thing going on here. Citrus. Do you smell any citrus? This is something my wine mentor has always told me, or this is an easy way to get a point on a wine exam, which is With the white wine, there's always lemon. Just put lemon down. You'll get an easy point. Maybe because of that teaching, I always get when there's white, I always get some lemon. But anyway, citrus fruit. But I do get some lemon, but really like ripe, like that kind of like a Meyer lemon, not like the unripe lemon, but like really ripe, almost like orange tinge to it, kind of like a lemon. So Meyer lemon, I get both like the peel as well as like the actual flesh of the lemon as well. Stone fruit, do you get any peach, apricot, nectarine, those kind of like orchards stone fruit? I do not. Tropical fruit, I don't get much tropical fruit here at all. No banana, no melon, no passion fruit, none of that. Red fruit and black fruit, this is mostly for the red wines, so we don't have to worry about that. Now, this is the nature of the fruit. What does that tell you? So it just tells you about what happened in the vintage, or whether the vintage is maybe really hot, which means that you're going to get a lot of like baked and stewed kind of other nature, jammy. If it was really cold, you get underripe nature of the fruit. So the noticing or noting the nature of the fruit is quite important. It tells you some information about what happened during the vintage, or at least during winemaking as well. So to me, the wine here, the fruit character is at least fresh. It's quite ripe. It's ripe, fresh, but it's not underripe. It's not overripe. It is like just really, really ripe and fresh fruit. Herbaceousness. Do you get any green, kind of grassy, green bell pepper, sometimes jalapenos, like that kind of stuff? I do not. Even though this is a lot of the Sauvignon Blanc, 70% Sauvignon Blanc. Sauvignon Blanc in general has that kind of green thing coming from Cabernet Franc. But here, again, it may be that oak influence that comes in, but I don't get a whole lot of it here. I don't get a lot of the green, maybe just a little, but that may just be a part of suggestion, knowing that there's a lot of Sauvignon Blanc here. No herbal things here for me. No lavender, fennel, dill, eucalyptus, mint, and menthol, or any of that. Any spices? Nope. No licorice, no white pepper, none of that. It's kind of what we call stoniness, which is whether it be wet rocks or crushed rocks, flint, slates. I don't get much of that here either. Now, secondary. Let's go to the secondary. Yeast, all these kind of brioche, bready, pizza dough, all this stuff, biscuits, all this stuff. The fancy name is autolysis, which is just when the wine is aged on dead yeast cells called lees. You pick up these kind of biscuity, bready, toasty kind of a thing. I don't get much here on the lees here. MLF, I know that this wine has gone through full mellow, and as a lot of you veterans know, I suck at smelling MLF. MLF stands for malolactic fermentation, where malic acid, which is naturally occurring acid that exists in the fruit, think like green apple really sharply ferments. It goes to secondary fermentation, which is naturally called malolactic fermentation, where the malic acid in the wine converts to lactic acid. Lactose, think like sour cream, yogurt, right? So it's still tart and still sour, but the nature of the fruit, nature of the acid is rounder. So malolactic fermentation here. Then this has gone to full malolactic fermentation. So some of you may get some of that kind of maybe creamy, buttery kind of a thing here. I don't get much of it. But to me, this is where the secondary exists. And we're gonna see a lot of this month with Bordeaux. Both red, both white, sweet, dry, doesn't matter. We're gonna see a lot of this kind of oak influence. Whenever they see new oak on the wine, this is what you get. Warming spices, talking vanilla, cloves, nutmeg, cinnamon, things like that. And I definitely get it here. There's absolutely some vanilla. You know what? I definitely get the touch of this kind of butterscotch, butter, just MLF influence here as well. Yeah, just toast level of that actual barrel coming through. There's a clear oak influence on this wine. Even though there's no new oak, but the 2-year-old barrels may have just been too young, not old enough for it to not become completely neutral. As the barrels get used and used, it loses all that oak flavors, and by the time it gets to like the 5th fill, fifth year, it's lost all of its New York flavors and it's basically used as a vessel, not necessarily for flavoring, more for oxidative exchange, kind of round out the wine and all of that. But here, there's definitely some touch of actual wood here. Any tertiary thing? This is what happens when the wine is aged in bottle or in barrels. So a lot of that primary fruit kind of turns into tertiary, where it gets into nutty, almond, marzipan, hazelnut, things like that. And the fruits become dried and raisin, and then you get a lot of non-fruit things like leather, forest floor, earth, and things like that. Oh, and I'm sorry, I forgot to mention this. Primary aromas and flavors, essentially what happens during the fermentation. This is a fruit itself. When it ferments, all these flavors, these kind of aroma and flavor compounds get released during the primary fermentation. The secondary flavors are what happens once the wine is fully fermented. You either put it in barrels. It's a post-fermentation kind of an aging technique. In this case, it was aged in minimum 2-year-old oak barrels. And because of that, we're getting this oak influence. We're getting this malolactic fermentation, which just happens after the primary fermentation. So this is what happens at the post-fermentation, and the final tertiary is when the wine has been aged. These are the flavors that come out when the wine has been aged. So youthful is when everything is kind of all primary. Developing is when you start to see secondary and tertiary start creep in. Fully developed is when you see the kind of harmonious balance of tertiary, secondary, primary, all kind of coexisting. Higher and pass is when it's lost kind of all primary and everything has become tertiary. So you lose a lot of that fruit and flowers. But on my nose, I have we call this medium intense aromas of all those things that we mentioned: yellow fruit in the here, yellow apple, mired lemon, and then here in the secondary, I get a lot of this oak influence, and then touch of the MLF, and then none of this thing. So we're talking about citrus, green fruit, flower here, but still mostly green fruit, citrus fruit, really fresh and ripe, but a ton of this kind of oak and an MLF influence on here. That's what I'm getting. Palate. So we finally get to taste the wine. So let's taste it. Give it a sip. Listerine the shit out of your mouth. Coat every inch of your mouth with the wine. The idea is that we're really feeling the wine. Feeling for the wine is what's tasting the wine. And then we're going to go down the line. So let's start from the top. Okay. First off, sweetness. Dry means lack of sugar. Sweet means presence of sugar. We're looking at the entire world of wine, every wine that's ever been produced. So even though you may think that, oh, there's a lot of fruit here, just kind of sweet. Like next week when we taste the dessert wine, we're going to taste things that are medium sweet to sweet. Dry, we're talking about like 0 grams of sugar left in the wine, all the way to luscious, which is like, Hungarian Tokai, which is like 350 milligrams per liter of sugar. So the range is quite wide. And just, like 95% of the wine in the world are dry. We're talking about 0 to like 10 grams of per liter of sugar. And of course, it's not scientific. It's not cut off. It's just kind of a lot of it's a perception as well. But usually 0 to 10 is about what we consider as dry. And this one is definitely dry. The sugar, this has been fermented completely dry. So there's not much sugar left here whatsoever. Acidity. Move the wine around, see where you feel acid. Most people feel it in the back of their jaw. Some people feel it between their eyebrows. Some people feel it in their sinus. Also observe how much saliva, how much spit your mouth generates after you spit the wine out or you swallow it. But you're trying to sense how much acid is present. Look at the amount of acid here. Not super high. It's like somewhere between medium, maybe high end of medium, lower end of medium plus. I thought this was more closer to medium plus earlier. My wine has gotten a little bit warmer now. I think it's closer to medium now, so I'm gonna call this medium now. But if you end of the summer, medium to medium plus, you're totally fine. Again, Semillon, Sauvignon Blanc, both high acid grape varieties, so it makes sense that they will end up somewhere around here. But right now, I'm gonna call this medium. I may come back to medium plus later. I mean, I'm feeling a little bit here now, but it's somewhere in there, high end of medium or in the medium plus. Tannin. This is a polyphenolic compound that's found in the skin, seeds, stems of the grapevine. Kind of gives you that kind of astringent, drying sensation in your mouth. If you ever oversteep green tea or you ever sucked on a bag of green tea and that kind of like you really drying sensation you get in your mouth, that's tannin. It serves as an antioxidant to make sure the wine doesn't oxidize. It basically serves as a preservative. So any wine, any red wines that are meant to be aged for a long time will usually have a high tannin. With the white wine, we don't talk about that because there's not much skin contact. Once we get into orange wine, which is white wine with a skin contact, we can talk about some tannin level. But with the most white wines, we're not talking about that. And this doesn't have any skin contact, so no tannin here. Alcohol. Take a sip. Watch the back of your throat. Watch the warmth. See how warm you feel. And from now on, to get I recommend that you practice game or play this game where you guess the percentage of the alcohol on the wine each time you taste the wine, just to kind of get a sense of where it is. And then I'll help you calibrate your senses. So if I were to guess here, I'm gonna guess probably like 13% here, 13.5. I know that this wine is in the label, it says 14.5, but I don't think it's that high. This might have been just the importer's decision to put it on there, just so that they can get out of the tariff, the Trump era tariff, the Trump tariff. There's a put on wines that are below 14%. This just might have been that, but this definitely does not taste like 14.5. 14.5 will be pretty high. With the 14.5, we're talking about elite medium plus getting up to high. So when we're talking about alcohol, medium is like 12 to 13.5%. Medium plus like 13.5, 14.5, around there. High is like 15 and above. Medium minus is 10.5 to 11.5, and low is 10 and below. It's basically how to think about it. So getting the practice of kind of guessing the alcohol percentage on it, and then we get. All right, body. Move the wine around. This is gonna split the room. Some people you'll be on team milk, some people you'll be not. We're talking about don't pay attention to acidity, don't pay attention to flavor. Just pay attention to just the viscosity of the wine. Move it around and see what that feels like in your mouth. Okay. Wow, there's some weight on this wine, and honestly, this alcohol is like 13.5. I'm gonna call this like maybe nearing on. I'm gonna call this medium plus an alcohol. I didn't call that. I actually do feel it a little bit, so maybe it is a little bit higher, 13.5, 14, maybe somewhere around there. There's some weight on this wine. So think of medium as imagine if you're like moving 2% milk all the way around. Light is skim milk, and full is whole milk. I know it sounds gross, maybe comparing wine with milk, but I'm not talking about flavor. I'm talking about just the weight of it all. I'm gonna call this about medium plus. There's some weight to this wine. A lot of that aging, this kind of an elevated medium plus alcohol ABV. A lot of high sugar content, and that's all been fermented out to alcohol. So I'm gonna call this a medium plus body. Definitely like 3% milk, if you want to call it that. Mousse, we don't have to talk about that. This is for the sparkling wine. This doesn't have any bubble, so we're good. Flavor intensity. How loud are the flavors here? There's that shy. I'm gonna call this at least medium, bordering on medium plus here. Definitely as a wine got warmer, the flavors are really starting to come out here more. But this is not actually a shy wine here at all. So I'm gonna call this at least medium, somewhere between medium plus. Right now, I think I'm gonna handle medium plus if I could call this it. Flavor characteristics. So this is where you confirm all the things that you tasted, all the things you smelled on the nose, and see if there's anything else you get or you don't get. So that floral kind of white, kind of a honeysuckle, maybe like white lilies or something like that. That's something, I don't know what it is, but there's something like honeysuckly blossomy thing that I keep coming back to. So yeah, there's a little bit of that. This yellow apple, like Basque pear, all that stuff. It's completely running through. Meyer lemon, both peel and the flesh, 100%. No stone fruit, none of this. Again, the fruit character being very fresh, very ripe. Nothing underripe about this wine whatsoever. Nothing green. Again, nothing underripe, nothing green. I don't get a whole lot of minerality here. And honestly, this part of the Bordeaux is very high in clay content. So you're not going to see a lot of, let's say, minerality, but there's a lot more fruit coming through. I mean, this is part of the reason why dessert wine is made here. So not a whole lot of minerality here, but yeah, just a lot of the citrus, the green fruit, and then touch of floral is what I get. Again, both as I did on the nose, but on the palate. So let's add MLF to that as well. So we're talking MLF, oak exposure, high alcohol, medium plus alcohol. All that is adding to the body of the wine. That's what makes it just kind of way heavy. But this oak influence, all the spices, the warming spices, the vanilla, the cloves, as well as this kind of like a creamy, round kind of texture. Like acid is here, like it's right. Like I get that. I call it like high end and medium, lower end and medium plus acid here. But the nature of the acid is very, very round. Like imagine instead of fucking really jagged acid, just really round acid. This is what I'm getting here. And then no tertiary. This wine is still very young. There's nothing left here in terms of tertiary. But really just on the primary, secondary, and then no tertiary. Actually, no. I take that back. There's actually quite a bit of tertiary. There's some tertiary coming in here because I remember thinking that earlier that there's a little bit of oxidative edge here. It could be it's the age, right? It's got some. It's 2019, so we're talking about 5 years of age, as well as the barrel. It was an Asian barrel, which there's some oxygen exchange that happens. So there's touch, especially towards the end, just at the end of a finish. There's a little bit of like a nutty finish here. So a little bit of oxidative edge, and also Semillon being, very oxidative, easy, grape variety. It makes sense that why you would start to see a little bit of kind of oxidation coming in through here as well. And finally, the finish is when you taste the wine, spit it out, swallow it, and see how long the flavors stick around. Some length. Okay, still going. All right, it's got some length. I'm gonna call this like higher than medium. Again, lower than this medium plus. I'm gonna call this medium plus, lower than medium plus, but yeah, it's got some length. All that kind of flavors that linger around. And then now that I'm watching for it, there's a touch of like a honey note here as well. That it's not just a nutty, so maybe a little more tertiary than I had thought. So a little bit of kind of oxidative, nutty kind of a thing. A little bit of this like honey kind of thing going on from bottle aging. So yeah, little honey note, little oxidative edge. Conclusion. All right, so this is finally when you put everything together and then see call how good it is. And then in this sense, in the grid, in the conventional world, the quality, good, is assessed by, is a function of four things. One, balance. Is this wine balanced? Is there anything here that is stopping you from experiencing other things because it's so overwhelming? I don't think so. You may argue that oak influence here is too strong that you cannot do it, but I don't think that's true. It's quite well integrated. While even though it is overt, it's quite well integrated. So I would say this is well balanced. Concentration. How intense are the flavors or the aromas? We call it medium on the nose. We called it medium plus, borderline medium plus on the palate. So somewhere between medium plus. Complexities. How many different things are we getting? We call primary, the flower, the green fruit, the citrus, right? And then we have the secondary, the oak, all the warming spices. We got the MLF, and then we also have the tertiary, kind of the nutty, as well as the honey that's coming through. So we're kind of seeing primary, secondary, tertiary, all of it coming through. And then finally, the length, we called it medium plus as well. So we're looking at all of it. So we got balance, we got medium to medium plus concentration, medium, I'll call that medium plus complexity, right? We got secondary, tertiary, primary, all these things. And then we got medium plus length. So when you combine, take the average of all these things, balance, medium, medium plus, we got two medium pluses and one medium. So somewhere between medium plus, but closer to medium plus it. So being generous, when that average comes down to medium plus, you call that very good. When that average is medium, you call that good. When that average is medium minus, you call that acceptable. When that is low or light is poor. Faulty just means that the wine is, you know, something wrong with the wine. Outstanding means when everything is pronounced. So we're gonna call this very good. And then level of readiness for drinking and potential for aging. I think this wine is perfectly fine to drink right now. I do think as this wine ages, it's going to show a little more tertiary notes and it's going to develop a little more complexity. A lot of that kind of primary, green fruit, citrus, all those things that we're talking about, it's going to start converting more into a tertiary notes and we're going to get a little more things. So I say drink this now. Wine is delicious, but given the trajectory, oh, by the way, sorry, getting a little distracted with all the things that are pretty exciting. So the aging, how do you determine the wine is ageable? It's gotta have two things: one structural component, and there is a flavor component. Structural component, we're talking about acid or tannin. It's basically acid and tannin serve as the backbone, so the wine just doesn't fall off. This wine we called it what, medium to medium plus acid. No tannin here, so we have decent backbone. It's not a crazy amount of backbone, but decent. Call it medium, bordering on medium plus. And then flavor component, we got to talk about concentration and complexity. Concentration, we called it medium on the nose, medium plus on the palate, so decent. Complexity wise, we do have a lot of things going on here, but it kind of shows, right? This one is 5 years old and it's already starting to show tertiary notes. I mean, we're talking about wines that can age, particularly here in Bordeaux, that can age 10, 20, 30 years plus. So the fact that within 5 years that this wine is already showing some of that tertiary notes and all of that is a testament to the things that we talked about. It doesn't have as good of an acid as it should. We would like to see, you know, a wine that ages for a much longer time. As well as the concentration is now, we call it somewhere between medium plus, but not solid in the medium plus or pronounced. So I'll say this wine is at a kind of a entering into kind of its peak. It's just approaching it, but I would say within next probably 2 years, maybe 3, it will probably reach its peak. After that, it will start falling off. What does that mean? All that primary fruit that we talked about, citrus, the flower, the green fruits, all that will start to fall off and then develop completely into tertiary notes. So you start losing all the freshness, all the primary fruits, and everything will become non-fruit flavors or dry fruit, which necessarily won't be all that appetizing because it just will not be fresh. So I would say this one is perfect right now. Drink it right now. But if you want to see a little more tertiary notes on the wine, I'll say drink it over the next 2 to 3 years. But I would say your drinking window on this thing is probably within the next 2 to 3 years, is what I say about this wine. Woo! So that's how you taste through the grid. I know that took a long time. Usually the first one takes a long time, but each week starting from there, we're gonna go through and we're gonna assign it to each person, and one person can take the nose, one person can take parents, and we'll go around. So you guys all get a chance to practice, but that is essentially what the grid goes. Does anybody have agree with any of the calls or any questions about any of the things that we just went over? Also, I'm going through the chat box and it looks like I'm having all the connectivity issues. Is it just me? He is, yes. Sorry, I apologize. I'm in Puerto Rico, so the internet kind of sucks. Any questions?
Woong, I don't have a question, but and I obviously know that you know a lot more about this than I do. But for me, like I got like burning in my chest. That made me think it was a kind of higher alcohol wine. And so I was surprised that you didn't have that experience. At first I was like, is this like acid? Is this what? But I was like, felt like a real sensation repeatedly.
So I'll be completely honest with you, Allison. I did have a shot of rum during dinner, so that may have something to do with it.
Yeah, that might kind of throw off your gauge a little bit.
So I'm not
I
at
don't know.
100% calibrated place right now to give you the best alcohol assessment, maybe. But it's after I said I was like at 13 and a half. I remember thinking that I was like, oh wait, I think there's a little more than that actually. But did anybody else get a really obvious alcohol this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can feel it in my gums.
Gums.
All right, so maybe I'm off. You guys are right. Maybe I'm.
Who's the expert now?
Yeah, it's a shot of rum that kind of threw everything off. Any other questions? So, for those of you who are Sauvignon Blanc drinkers, this is mostly Sauvignon Blanc. This is 70% Sauvignon Blanc. This is what happens to Sauvignon Blanc when it touches white wine. I mean, when it touches oak and gets mixed with Semillon. And yeah, it's a different example. A lot of Bordeaux Blanc that we find out there are like pretty cheap, and they are quite frankly very innocuous, neutral, just kind of white wine. The fact that this is something a little bit different is kind of what appealed to me. And you're right, this wine is quite hot. Now that you mention it, but I actually took a sip in the last one, but I was like, now I feel it instead of spitting it out. Yeah, this is what happens when Sauvignon Blanc touches oak and Semillon. And this area, I mean, it makes sense. It's a dessert wine territory, which means it has a lot of sugar in the wine. So, just out of curiosity, did you guys like this? Did you guys like this one?
Yes.
Did anybody not like this one? You can be honest. This is a very dramatic pivot from kind of the wines that we normally drink on this wine club. So I'm curious to what people's thought if you didn't like it. Or even if you did like it.
I could taste that it wasn't an Woong wine. Like when I drank it, I was like, oh, no, this isn't a normal wine, but I still like it because I don't have the same taste as you. So this is kind of a nice change.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, I really like this too. I feel
Okay.
like I have a friend who she only likes like super high acid white wine. And
Yeah.
I kind of want her to try this because I normally lean that way as well, but I really enjoy this.
Yeah. And, you know, given that there's some oak on this, I don't think the oak it's clear that it's over, like it has touched oak, but it's not over the top. Like it's still pretty well balanced and integrated into the wine. Like there's some oak at this juncture, especially with the Sauvignon Blanc, that it becomes just so overwhelming. And I tasted a lot of it, but this is one of them that I actually felt was much, much nuanced and subtle, even though it is more obvious than probably most wines that we ever drink on this wine club. But yeah. Yeah, now that I'm swallowing this wine, I feel that alcohol. That's wild. All right, let's play this game. How much do you think this wine is on a retail shelf? How much would you be willing to pay for it on the retail shelf? $28, $25. Hold on. Let's see. Let me just make sure this I have this right. Yeah, okay. 30, 20, 30, 28, 25, 28, 28, 25, 28, 28, 31, 38. Wow. I think this is the first time you guys have been unanimously off by quite a bit. This wine on the retail shelf would be $21.
That's such a good deal.
So, yeah, I mean, given the amount of things that are going on here, know also that it's, you know, a lot of it's barrel, it's a lot of it's makeup. But nonetheless, the fact that this is 21, I think is an incredible value for what it is. So yeah. And again, this kind of stuff with the rest of stuff in this month's spot makes so much more sense with food. Like even I actually like oaked whites with turkey, Thanksgiving dinner. So turkey, roast chicken would be good. Creamy pasta, all that stuff would make a lot of sense with this. A lot of like a buttered fish, Dover sole, all of that would make sense. Brown butter would make a lot of sense here as well. Gnocchi and the brown butter sage, that'd be a good thing here. So if you are tasting some wine and feeling this is really hot, it's too oaky, it's just not your typical jam, like I said, make some of that food pairing suggestions I sent out. Just this whole month, just make sure you have some food. The wine will make so much more sense. This week and next week, maybe a little less so, just because there's a lot of fruit. Particularly next week, there's a lot of sugar, so it's approachable. But when we get to the third and fourth week, those wines are austere, their tanning is big. Like it's not, it won't be fun drinking that wine just by itself. So at least have some cheese, just have some. Sold, how much can I get? Or can I get, so this is a very small production. There's about 50 cases that make it into the US the whole year. And then we bought 10 of them already. So we'll see how many of this we can get more come case club time. But if you are like serious about it and you're like, I want some, like I definitely want some, let me know. And then I can ask the importer to set some aside for us. So, let me know. But yeah, there's very little of this coming into this. Any other questions?
I have a question. You
What's
know
up?
how certain regions you can only call a wine, you know, certain names if it meets their rules and regulations. Could you call this like Bordeaux Blanc, or does it have to be from a specific area to be called that, or have a specific blend of grapes?
Yes. So Bordeaux Blanc can come from anywhere within Bordeaux. Grapes can be sourced from anywhere within Bordeaux.
Okay.
In terms of the variety, it has to be Sauvignon Blanc, Semillon, or Muscatel. It cannot be any other grape variety.
Okay.
Where this wine comes from is Barsac, which is a sub-region of Sauternes. And Barsac, the AOC, the appellation is, or Sauternes, both Sauternes and Barsac, the AOC is only for sweet wine. You cannot make dry wine. You cannot make red. You cannot make rosé. You cannot make sparkling. You cannot make dry wines. You can only make sweet, botrytis effective dessert wine. The appellation regulation dictates. So even though all the grapes, fruit for this wine comes from Sauternes or Barsac, subregion of Sauternes, that cannot call this Barsac because this is a dry, still wine.
Okay. So they just call it Bordeaux Blanc because it's.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Precise. When we get to the third week of this month, we're also going to taste wine that comes from Saint-Emilion, made by a growth, like a traditionally growth, second growth producer, but they have decided to basically ignore appellation. They decided that the wines that they make are not, or the styles of wine that the AOC system represents is no longer the wine style that Bordeaux was known for back in the day. So the less oak, much more classic kind of traditional style. So they decided not to apply for appellation system at all. So even though they make wine and Saint-Emilion, which is they also own some of the Grand Cru vineyard sites in Saint-Emilion, but they decided purposely not to apply for the appellation status. So that appellation on the third week's bottle, even though it comes from, some of the fruit comes from Grand Cru sites, is Vin de France. Because they don't care. They're like, we're not going to play by this silly Bordeaux appellation rules, which we'll much rather, we're going to bet our wine on our reputation and our style rather than play this game of what appellation dictates that this wine should be.
That's cool.
Yeah. It's pretty
I'm
ballsy.
going there in June, so I'll have to go check out their winery.
Yeah. It's a very different thing. So like, you know, people talk about Bordeaux versus Burgundy a lot. And then we've put a Burgundy box together in this month, in this wine club as well. But it's a very different place and feel. Like, and we'll talk about this next week more about it. But Burgundy is all about the place. It's all about the vineyard, the sites where it comes from. It's less about the producer and it's really about where the grape comes from. Here in Bordeaux, it's all about the producer. It's all about the chateaus. So each chateau has their own vineyard that they own. It's all almost estate fruit. And the quality of the wine, and consequently the price of the wine is it predicates on how well known, how well branded the chateau is, not necessarily the place where it comes from. So it's a very different kind of approach. And here is very regal. I mean, those, you know, grand chateaus. Like when you think of like old school French wine labels, you know, with the pictures of that, like big ass castles and chateaus and all of that, that all basically comes from Bordeaux. So just be ready for some snobbery, is all I'm saying.
I've been
Snobbery and
emailing them.
rigidity.
We're gonna have, I think between the group, we're gonna have 3 toddlers with us. So I've been emailing the wineries asking, you know, if they allow kids, and a few of them said no, but like a couple of the really big names said no. But then a bunch of them said, of course we do. We do grape juice tastings for them and snack plates. And I just thought that was so cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That reminds me, my WCT advanced class, on the very first day of class, the instructor had us start the class with a blind tasting. And these are all people who work in industry and different, at different aspects of it, some retail, some wholesale, whatever. And we're all racking our brains like, what is this thing? Like, what is in front in a glass and blah, blah, blah. We all called it like medium alcohol, things are wild. And turns out it was nothing but pure Riesling grape juice. It was unfermented Riesling grape juice. I know we all called it like medium alcohol. Or medium minus alcohol. And like it just goes to show, blind tasting is really the true test, or like the level. It's just levels the playing field. It's like whatever you think it is, all your preconceived notions and bias and all that should come out. So. Oh. Any other questions? Cool. Well, in that case,